Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to create a riser and DIY lighting with salvage pieces. If you enjoy my channel or this video at all, I would so appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share. We're going to start with this bottom of a dilapidated curio cabinet that I had, and I'm going to start by filling in the holes and then sanding those smooth before I move on to the next step. I wanted to freshen up the stain, and so I'm using a gel stain. I do this step first because any decoupage medium that I use, if it's got onto the edges that I want to stain, it would act as a resist. So I stain first, and look how much nicer that looks. Next, it was time to decoupage, and I coated the top with white chalk style paint. And now I'm ready to lay out my paper. This is the Crate Trolley paper by Roycycled Treasures. It's one of my absolute favorites. I use it a lot. And so I'm just using my eyeballs basically and my fingers to create a crease so I know where my design's going to be, and then I'm going to trim off the excess. I find it really helpful to trim off the excess going a little bit bigger than I need. The paper was just wide enough to fit on this piece, and so I'm going to be able to stretch it with a little bit of water, but this just really makes it so much easier. So here I'm misting with a little bit of water. It'll give me a little bit of stretch, and I'm using Pigment Infuser by Posh Chalk as my decoupage medium. I'm going to lay this down. I actually wish I would have cut a little notch on this section so that it would go down a little more smoothly. But I'm using a wallpaper tool that has a felt tip, and that really helps me get the paper down. But I did struggle with this side a little bit because I did probably too large of a section right here. It all worked out in the end, so it's okay. You can see that I'm getting some wrinkles here, but I just use that tool to smooth them out. And then I want to make sure that I got medium all around my edges. The edges are super important as well, so that you don't have any lifting. So for the next area, I just went in smaller sections, and that was much easier. And the paper laid down much more smoothly. When applying medium, I work from away from the crease and then move towards the crease with my medium. So you can see here that by working in these smaller sections, it's laying down a lot more smoothly. So here's where I start to the left of the crease and then work towards it. And in the end, like I said, it all worked out. So it was just fine. Next, I wanted to go ahead and just sand off all of the edges, and then I wanted to apply stain to the decoupage paper. This time I did not seal the paper before I applied the stain. I'm working in a circular motion with my gel stain, and you can see that the wrinkles are popping back up, but the majority of them just work themselves out if you're patient and just give everything a chance to dry. I really love how this just deepens the paper and also addresses the areas of the edges where I sanded. So they're getting restained again. Next, I sealed it with a top coat. Again, I got some wrinkles, but in the end, I was patient, let it dry, and it all works out. So here is the finished riser. I really love how this turned out. I hope you do too. Let's make this DIY lighting. I had these old fence posts and a discarded bathroom light, and I really, really love how these turned out. I love the chippy finish on these, but I really suspected that they had lead. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to cut off these wires because I won't need them. I'm going to be using a battery operated light bulb for these sconces. It means that I don't have to worry about a plug or anything like that. Next, I'm going to measure where I want the hole to be. And so I struggled with this one a little bit, but I got there. Because I suspected that this had lead in the paint, I'm going to seal it. I don't want to do a lot of sanding or anything like that. So I just sealed it in. I'm not worried that I wasn't able to get them completely clean because I'm just going to seal that in. I'm using a Smart Texturizer by Posh Chalk, and I'm going to mix it as close to a 1-to-1 ratio as I can with my Wise Owl Chalk Synthesis paint in Grecian clay. I'm going to mix that until I get a nice consistency, and then to apply this, I'm going to just use my Klingon brush in a stippling motion, and I'm going to cover the entire piece. I want to recreate that texture that's in it. I don't want to lose that because I think that's what's so charming about it. So I'll do this whole piece, the sides, the insides, all of that, and just cover it in the Grecian clay. For the tricky parts, I'm just using a flat artist brush to apply this. Next, I'm coating the entire piece with a crackling gel, also by Posh Chalk. I'll have a link to all the products that I've used. And once that's dry, I'm now using the crackle paste. So this is the second step. The crackle paste requires the crackle gel as the first step. And I'm just going to mix this with this is an all-in-one paint that I've used. I just mixed a couple of colors to get this pretty kind of off-white, and I'm mixing that really well into the texture paste, and I'm going to apply this over the fence posts with a palette knife. I like doing it this way because it just allows me to work with the texture that's already in there, and I also feel that it gives me a more authentic finish than if I had used a brush. So once all of this was complete, I let everything dry. Here I'm even using the palette knife on the sides, and it was time to work on the lights. I gave them a really good sanding and then mixed up some of that Grecian clay with the Smart Texturizer again, and I applied 2 coats of this to these little areas of this bathroom fixture with a stencil brush. This allowed me also to just create a little more texture on them, and I thought that they worked really well with the piece. Once they were dry, I just applied them. I used a washer and a nut, and here I'm attaching this is a magnetic battery operated bulb. So I had to cut out the little center part, and I used the tongs inside to hold my light bulb in place, and it just sticks right on like that. I love how these turned out, and I will definitely make these again. I hope you enjoyed this project. Let's take a look at everything together and how I styled it in my dining room. If you enjoyed this video or my channel, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Happy creating!